Jarren Duran is being significantly undervalued as he was absolutely snubbed from the first round of fan voting for the All-Star game.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and also currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it's all free. So you can check it out right on your favorite podcast platform at no charge. And Locked On absolutely is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome to today's episode of Locked On Red Sox, where I come to you with just some very disappointing news. Now, the All-Star game is always fun to watch, and I enjoy watching them actually play, but I'm going to be diving into on today's show just a couple Red Sox players who are not getting enough love after the first round of voting results were released. I'm also going to be talking about the future of the catching position for the Boston Red Sox because Wong has had a fantastic season and Teel is emerging as somebody who could be a very special piece for the future for this Boston Red Sox team. So I'm going to be talking about them. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be talking about the latest roster moves that the Red Sox made now that they are starting to become a healthier baseball team. And it's certainly very exciting. So that's all on deck for today's show. But first of all, we have to talk about these All-Star votes because as much as I like and enjoy the All-Star game and the festivities are always fun, I love the home run derby too. It's always a great couple days to be able to watch baseball and watch some of the best players in the league go at it against each other. And it's definitely a very wholesome experience in that regard. However, I personally feel like the process is flawed in terms of how players get selected. It should be based strictly on stats more so than fan votes because it ends up being a popularity contest and then players who deserve it end up not getting into the All-Star game. And Jarren Duran is one of those players who I worry is going to get snubbed in the end because he wasn't even in the top 20 for outfielders in the first round of voting, and I find that to be incredibly ridiculous. As an outfielder right now, he has been having such a good season, not only just numbers-wise, but also because of his versatility. I mean, he's taken 295 at-bats with 82 hits, 5 home runs, a 278 batting average, 348 on base percentage, 468 slugging, and 816 OPS with 48 runs scored, 31 RBIs, and 17 stolen bases. Those are very good numbers, and we have to keep in mind the difference that he makes on the base paths. That is something that I feel like is a little bit underrated, is how much of a contribution he's able to make when he's running the bases. And that's something that absolutely should be taken into consideration when voting on different positions within the All-Star game. In the outfield, you want players who are going to be able to put your team in a position to score. And with Jarren Duran, even if he doesn't record a hit on the night, we somehow always find him in some sort of conversation in terms of somebody who contributed to the Red Sox winning a game, because even if he doesn't get a hit and he walks and he gets on base, most of the time he's going to steal a base and put the Red Sox in a position to get a run on the board. So that has to absolutely be taken into account. So the fact that he's not even top 20 in outfielders is ridiculous. And the biggest thing too about that is the top 2 outfielders on the list are Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, which is perfectly acceptable. I'm in agreement with that. But when it comes to the rest of the outfielders on there, so Jarren Duran trails only 2 outfielders in Baseball References WAR in the American League. The only 2 outfielders ahead of him in that category, Judge and Soto. So he really should be third on the list. And just to explain to you, WAR basically stands for wins above replacement and essentially means how valuable a player is to their team. So how many more wins is a team getting with that player playing their position as opposed to putting in a replacement player. So it takes everything into account of what this player does to contribute to their team. And Baseball References version has him at number 3 in outfielders. The Red Sox literally are winning more games with him in the outfield than they would with a replacement player there. And if he's number 3 in that, shouldn't that be saying something when it comes to these all-star votes? Because everybody else on the list is not as good as Jarren Duran this year. And I'll take an example of somebody who actually stood out to me that was above Duran that I was very surprised about, and that is Kevin Kiermaier of the Blue Jays. Now, keep in mind Jarren Duran's numbers, the 278 batting average. Kevin Kiermaier is hitting just 195 this year. 48 runs scored for Duran, 13 runs scored for Kevin Kiermaier, 31 RBIs for Duran, just 9 RBIs for Kiermaier. 17 stolen bases for Duran compared to just 4 for Kiermaier. And the most mind-blowing is Kevin Kiermaier's on-base percentage is just a 242 compared to a 348 for Duran. Kiermaier with a 309 slugging, Duran with a 468 slugging. I mean, these numbers are very insurmountably different. And I get that not every player shows their full potential for the entirety of the season. But when it comes to being consistent, Jarren Duran has had a very strong season in a Boston Red Sox uniform. And you can't take those numbers and say he doesn't deserve to be in a good position to make the All-Star game. So Red Sox fans need to absolutely show up more with their voting, especially when it comes to Duran. And another thing to add too is that the Red Sox do lead MLB in triples and they lead the American League in steals. Duran has been at the forefront of both of those with 10 triples and 17 stolen bases. So he's a big reason why the Red Sox are winning the games that they are. And even last week in the series against the Yankees, he was not afraid to steal bases and be aggressive. And we need Jarren Duran here because I've actually had this conversation before with people about if you take Jarren Duran off this team, you're losing a very important factor, and that is his speed. And to me, you have to consider everything that the player brings to the table and then think about what would this team look like if you were to take this player off the roster, and would they be able to still be at the level that they are at now? And the answer to me is no. If you were to take Jarren Duran off this team, he would be somebody who would be a huge loss for the Red Sox. They would notice that they don't have that speed on the bases anymore, and they don't have Jarren Duran in there to make a difference in multiple capacities. So to me, Duran should be way higher up on that list. The fact that he's not even in the top 20 is actually very concerning. He really should be right below Judge and Soto. But again, this is where it becomes a popularity contest once again with other fan bases showing out more and voting. So I really encourage you to vote. Another thing that was a little bit surprising to me is where Connor Wong is on the list. He's 8th on the list right now, and he's having a fantastic season. 183 at-bats, 61 hits, 5 home runs, 333 batting average, 23 runs scored, 25 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. He also has an on-base percentage of 398 with a 459 slugging and 857 OPS. I know I just rattled off a bunch of numbers, but those are good numbers, especially for a catcher and especially considering how he played last year. We didn't expect him to put up these types of numbers this year. So Wong has had a very good season. He's currently 8th on the list, and one catcher who is above him right now is Yankees' Jose Trevino. Now, this is a guy who literally can't throw out base stealers. I mean, we saw it in the Sunday night game. The Red Sox were just stealing bases all the time because he couldn't throw guys out. Connor Wong is good at pinning down base runners and getting those guys out, because when guys get a good jump, Wong's always prepared for it and has a beautiful throw down to second base. And a lot of those times he catches those guys. That's a big thing that needs to be taken into account here. And Jose Trevino's batting average is a 271 compared to Connor Wong's 333. 19 runs scored and 25 RBIs for Trevino compared to 23 runs scored and 25 RBIs for Connor Wong. And when it comes to on-base percentage, 398 for Wong and 317 for Trevino. So there are definitely in this list some flaws here. When this first round of All-Star voting came out, Connor Wong definitely deserves more love, as does Jarren Duran for sure. Red Sox fans need to go out and vote, and it would just be tough to see guys get in over them that have not been playing as well this year. And that's why I've always thought that the All-Star voting process should just go by performance and stats. How are players performing? And I get they want to keep the fans involved, which I like, but sometimes the results just come out so skewed that it's tough to justify maintaining that process. So hopefully Red Sox fans go out and vote for these guys who very much deserve to be in the All-Star game, because I was not happy when I saw those results. Coming up, though, speaking of Connor Wong, I'm going to be talking about the future of the catching tandem for the Boston Red Sox, because they have a chance to have two of the best catchers in the league in the next couple seasons. Playoff basketball tickets are ridiculously expensive. I get it. Any playoff game for any sport is going to have really high ticket prices, but Game Time can help get you the cheapest tickets possible and make sure that you're having a good experience because you have a good view from your seat. I love going to baseball games during the summer. I actually have already gone to a couple Red Sox games at Fenway, and I've used Game Time to purchase tickets to those games. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets today if you just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I can speak from firsthand experience using it that they will give you the lowest prices, so you absolutely should check it out for all of your ticket needs. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/T-M and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. It's a great way to make sure you're getting your electrical supplies in a convenient way, so check out Supply House. Also, check out Locked On Sports today, as we as a network have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. So if you're looking to stay caught up in all things going on in sports, Locked On Sports today absolutely has you covered. The Boston Red Sox over the last few seasons have been making it pretty clear that the path they are trying to take right now is to focus on and invest in the future. They are not as focused on the present roster and improving that as much, but rather just developing guys in the system who they feel are going to be key pieces in the future. And I just hope that that works out for them, because it's a gamble relying on all of these prospects panning out. At some point, you need to have a mix of veteran, proven players on the roster with some of these younger guys. But the Red Sox have a great core going right now between Jarren Duran, Cedar Rafaela, David Hamilton, even with the way he's emerging, Connor Wong, Rafael Devers, Tristan Casas, Vaughn Grissom, who I definitely would like to see more of when he can hopefully get healthy and play again, and Wilyer Abreu also in the mix. All young, talented players who the Red Sox are relying on to be big contributors to this Red Sox team in the future. And when you look at Connor Wong and the numbers he's putting up this year, it makes you very excited for the future with him. Again, a .333 batting average this year with 61 hits and 5 home runs. He is driving runs in. 25 RBIs is very good, and I didn't know that Connor Wong had this in him, and I'm so glad that he's starting to figure things out, because that's going to be huge for the Red Sox moving forward, as if they can get this version of Connor Wong in the future as he progresses through his career in a Red Sox uniform. And I particularly am impressed by the fact that not only does he bring his good defense like he always has, but he's really challenging opposing pitchers. He's not settling. He's willing to take pitches. He's showing a ton of plate discipline, and he's finding the pitch that works for him. And it's been very under the radar among baseball this year. Nobody's really talking about it, but he is having an unbelievable season. And the Red Sox, as they are navigating through this season and into next season, they're trying to figure out what the future of the Red Sox organization is going to look like. What players are still going to be here in a couple of years? What players are they going to think to move, maybe put into a trade package? Who is worth investing in long term? And if they want to have a really strong catching tandem, then Connor Wong definitely should be kept around, who would likely be paired with Kyle Teel, a stud catching prospect in the Red Sox organization who is tearing it up with the Portland Sea Dogs right now in AA. He's hitting .313 right now with a .411 on base percentage and .487 slugging with an OPS of .898. He does have 5 stolen bases on the season and 40 RBIs to go with 7 home runs. He has 61 hits total, with 13 of them being doubles, and he's scored 44 runs over 195 at-bats. He's hitting very well right now at the AA level, and he did start the season in AA, and I feel like if he continues to hit as well as he is, he might get an opportunity in AAA this year. And obviously right now the Red Sox have Reese McGuire as the backup catcher behind Connor Wong, so he likely is somebody who won't be on the team once Kyle Teel does get called up to the majors. But I want to see Teel continue to get his opportunities, and they want to go about this the right way. You don't want to rush a player like that up to the majors. You want to make sure that he's 100% ready before he gets that call up. And so the last thing I would want to do is just have the Red Sox get into desperation mode of saying, okay, we don't really want to deal with Reese McGuire anymore, so we're going to call up Teel, because you want to cherish that type of talent and go about it the right way, so that in the long run, that player is making major contributions to your team. So it'll be interesting to see the timeline of when the Red Sox feel like Teel is ready to be called up to AAA, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is sometime this season, because he certainly has earned it with his performances in AA. Now, in terms of his offensive approach, he has a very sound left-handed swing and a disciplined, utilizing all fields approach. That's the type of hitter he is. He does feature 20 homer upside and is expected to produce plenty of doubles as he moves throughout his career with pop that plays to all parts of the ballpark. And that's a great hitter to have at Fenway, is somebody who can utilize all parts of that ballpark. And we've seen hitters be very successful when they are able to do that. So that's something that Kyle Teel has. That's definitely some upside with him. He was an early draft pick for the Red Sox in the 2023 draft, went to college at Virginia, and he is, as of right now, expected to make his major league debut in early 2025. So I don't think the Red Sox feel like he needs much time at AAA, but it'll definitely be exciting when he does get called up to AAA, how long he actually really stays there. But he is a defense first catcher who also adds some value at the plate because of that versatility that he does have and the ability to utilize all parts of the ballpark. But he has the ceiling of an impact everyday catcher if his bat continues to develop in the way that it is. He's expected to develop into a hit over power type of hitter. He generates a lot of doubles and extra base hits, but doesn't really hit home runs as much, and just has a really high baseball IQ, which is very important to have if you're a catcher. He's a strong leader who is expected to be able to handle the rigors of catching at the major league level and do it well, but he is somebody who the Red Sox continue to hope will grow and develop and be somebody that they can look forward to being called up maybe even as soon as next year. So one thing that I'm going to be looking out for from him moving forward is for that bat to continue to develop. We know he has the sound defense of a catcher, which is very important. But if he can get his offense going and you combine that with what Connor Wong's doing, that's going to be a very dangerous tandem at the catcher position that the Red Sox are going to have. And it's hard to say if how Connor Wong is performing right now is a permanent thing or if it's more of a temporary thing where he's just having a good season and then he's going to slip back after this year again. We won't really know that until next season. So if he continues to do what he's doing this year and then you add Kyle Teel into the mix, those are two very solid catchers for the Red Sox to have at the helm. And when it comes to who's going to be the starting catcher and who's going to be the backup, that might take some time for the Red Sox to figure out, because in this situation here, their current one, it was pretty obvious that they saw Connor Wong as the number one starting catcher and Reese McGuire as the backup. But if you have Wong and Teel both up at the majors and they're both performing at a similar level, then it becomes a matter of, okay, do we make Connor Wong the starting catcher because he's a more experienced player, so we feel like we can trust him a little bit more in the high pressure situations, or do we see Kyle Teel as the number one because that is our future of the franchise, is Teel, who we see being a part of this organization for a long time. So we might as well get him acclimated now and have him be the number one. So there's going to be a tough decision to make either way, but I don't think they could really go wrong with either, especially if Wong is continuing to perform how he is. And then obviously if Wong starts to slip back and maybe doesn't have as good of a season next year, then the Red Sox have a little bit of a clearer decision on who the number one starting catcher should be. But I'm very excited about Kyle Teel for the reason that he hit very well in college and he's been starting to hit very well in the minors for the Red Sox. And if he can do all of that and be versatile, it's pretty rare that you find a super versatile catcher who can do everything well. And I feel like Kyle Teel is the type of player who has the potential to do everything well. So he's going to be a special talent for Boston. And so when we think about the Red Sox current roster and where they're at now and how, yes, it's been a frustrating season so far for sure with the Red Sox lack of moves to get this roster into a position to maybe make the playoffs, we can then think about the fact that we have these two catchers in Connor Wong and Kyle Teel who both have the chance to be among the best starting catchers in the league right now. And that's something that's very exciting to think about. So as we move through the rest of this season, definitely be sure to keep an eye on both Connor Wong and Kyle Teel at the minor league levels and where he's at, because I don't think it'll be too much longer before he eventually gets that call up. I mean, his call up to AAA, if that ends up being sometime this season, I suspect that the Red Sox might not have him spend a lot of time in AAA, depending on how things go, and then they would call him up to the majors. So it's definitely very exciting. The Red Sox future for sure is in good hands. I know right now the current situation of the team isn't exactly what Red Sox fans hope for, but we do have a future that we can be excited about for sure. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about another exciting thing with this Red Sox team right now, and that is the latest roster move, because they are starting to get healthy, and that could be the key down the stretch. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, you should check out Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money with baseball-only lineups on Prize Picks. If you submit a winning lineup featuring 4 Demon Squares, you'll cash in big time on the biggest moments of baseball's early season. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball season winds down. Make sure to try out esports, because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. Prize Picks will definitely bring you what you need in terms of your fantasy sports fix. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's a first deposit match up to $100 if you use code LOCKEDONMLB when you download the Prize Picks app. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It's Prize Picks. Who doesn't love easy, right? I mean, you might as well check that out because it's such a seamless process and you can win money. Who doesn't like money? Also, this is your reminder to check out Locked On Sports today, as we have launched the first ever National Sports 24/7 streaming channel that's available on YouTube and Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. So if you're looking for a way to stay caught up in all things going on in sports, that absolutely is the place for you. So subscribe to Locked On Sports today. One of the biggest themes of the Boston Red Sox 2024 team has been injuries. Just a constant revolving door of players not being able to stay healthy and guys going on the IL. And as soon as one player comes back, somebody else ends up on the injured list. So it's just been this crazy revolving door all season long. And fans want a healthy team. I mean, that just is as simple as it is. We want to be able to see this team be healthy and perform, because I feel like this team has the potential to be a playoff team if they were healthier. And they are definitely heading back in the right direction when it comes to people returning from injuries. Romy Gonzalez is officially back and has been activated. He is a utility player, so he can be used either in the infield or the outfield, but the Red Sox are primarily utilizing him in the infield. So I suspect that that's something that's going to continue. So he had missed a couple weeks due to a hamstring strain and actually went 6 for 12 in his rehab games with AAA Worcester before returning. So he was on an absolute tear and was hitting very well and is clearly ready to come back, which I don't blame him. And it was nice earlier on in the season when he was playing because he was making an impact offensively before going on the IL. He hit .257 with a .651 OPS and 6 RBIs over 17 games for the Red Sox this year. So he definitely was making some noise. So then when he got injured, it was unfortunate because he hadn't really gotten a lot of playing time at that point because he already had experienced a previous injury early on in the season. So he didn't even return to the Red Sox until the season was already partway through. So he really hasn't played in very many games this year, but the games he did play in, he made sure to make an impact offensively for the Red Sox. So obviously, whenever a player is activated, there needs to be a corresponding roster move. And there was, in fact, a corresponding roster move here to make room for Romy Gonzalez on the roster. The Red Sox optioned infielder Jamie Westbrook back to AAA Worcester. He's a 28-year-old rookie who played in 11 games for the Red Sox this year, hitting .222 with a home run, 4 RBIs, and a .749 OPS. And I was really excited for Westbrook when he got called up to make his major league debut because he had been waiting for that moment for so long. He had played in so many minor league games, so he finally was experiencing a moment that he had really worked up to and was ready to get to. And so he finally got that moment. And I definitely think there's a lot of potential with Westbrook for sure. He definitely needs to work a little bit on his plate discipline still. And I think he can make an impact, but he just timing wise isn't in the right spot to maintain a roster spot right now because the Red Sox just have a lot of talent and a lot of players who are coming back from injury. And Westbrook was never meant to be a more permanent call-up. It was for this type of situation because of injuries. And I actually did mention on yesterday's show that I felt like Westbrook was a likely candidate to be sent back down to AAA when the Red Sox start getting their players back healthy. So sure enough, he is going back down to AAA. I hope he continues to work at it down there because I really like his attitude and just his passion for the game of baseball. And I feel like he absolutely has a ton of potential to succeed down the road with this Red Sox team. It's just a matter of what is he going to do at the AAA level to improve, and what is the Red Sox roster going to look like? Because a lot of it is timing, and when they have guys in there like Gonzalez, like Vaughn Grissom, who's still injured, or even David Hamilton, who has the speed and is showing a ton of upside, or Cedar Rafaela, it's hard to break into a roster spot with that core group there. So this isn't a knock on Jamie Westbrook at all. I just think he got called up because of the injuries, and then now he's getting sent back down because they have a healthier player coming back who is more a player who's supposed to be on this roster right now. So we'll see how Westbrook does back down in AAA, but having Romy Gonzalez back is definitely a good step in the right direction for this Red Sox team right now. With all of the injuries that are taking place, it's definitely a good sign that they are getting some guys back. Chris Martin also supposed to be back. Wilyer Abreu also supposed to be back. And Abreu coming back to this lineup would be huge. When the Red Sox have had a few games recently where they've generated a ton of runs, having somebody in there who was incredibly hot at the plate before getting injured could be a huge difference maker coming back. So the Red Sox, and having these two good series wins against the Phillies and Yankees, to then find out that they have a lot of their key players coming back is absolutely huge for a team that lives off of momentum. And these guys are hungry. They are resilient. They want to win. We've totally seen that from them. So I'm hoping that they don't take their feet off the gas, that they continue to believe in themselves, because I definitely feel like this past week has shown that the Red Sox have the ability to do it and the ability to compete. We know what they can do. They just have to continue to put it all together and use that next man up mentality that they've used in this last couple months, or however you want to describe the timeline, when they've had all these injuries and guys who get called up are stepping into these roles. So they need to maintain that attitude of, this is my job now to come in here and step up and fill the shoes of a player who was super valuable to this Red Sox team. So I'm hoping they can continue with those attitudes and that they continue to win games against good opponents and that they can keep themselves in that wild card mix, because getting their players back could be exactly what they need to get their spot in the playoffs more solidified. So I'm definitely optimistic moving forward here as the Red Sox do start to get healthier, but the key is going to be staying healthy. Now that they're getting guys back, let's just make sure that they're actually staying healthy and that they're not at a point where they're finding themselves continuing to get injured again, and we're in this vicious cycle still that we've been in for a long time now of players getting injured, other players coming back, other players getting injured. So let's stay healthy, let's stay focused, let's win some baseball games, and let's make the playoffs, because once you make the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen from there. But of course, that does start with you and I. We absolutely have to keep the faith. Go Red Sox as always, and I will catch you on the flip side.